That's right, Yam. The Colts and quarterback Daniel Jones have agreed to terms on a 2-year, $88 million contract that could be worth up to $100 million with incentives. This coming days after the Colts initially applied the transition tag to Daniel Jones, buying them additional time to work out a deal. Jones would have been eligible later today to sign an offer sheet with another team that the Colts then would have had the right to match. Had they not matched, then they would have not gotten any compensation for Jones going elsewhere. But that was never the...
Who had a history with defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. My understanding was this deal needed to be done before the Colts could do something with Hendrickson. They were talking with him all along. Problem is Hendrickson's now headed to Baltimore. Why is that? Because...
Breaking news out of the NFL. The Colts and Daniel Jones have agreed to a 2-year, $88 million extension. That's been confirmed by our Jonathan Jones. The deal can reach a max value of $100 million. Indianapolis originally used the transition tag on Jones, but were eventually able to reach a long-term deal. Prior to tearing his Achilles, he led the Colts to an 8-4 start to the season and was on pace for a career year. That year, of course, hitting pause with the injury, but you look at bests all around the board except for passing TDs, second best when it comes to his season in Indy. Now will hopefully be ready to go by the start of the year and has a new contract and some new money to go with it. Our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, joining us now. JJ, you go from transition tag to now getting a deal done. What's your reaction to that? Are you surprised at all?
This is the way it was trending, Zach, yesterday. There was progress that was being made on the contract, and there was a lot of hope that the two sides could come to an agreement before the start of the new league year on Wednesday afternoon. This is a huge deal for Daniel Jones. Coming off an Achilles, right? The fact is that the Colts decided that they were going to try to save some money by not using the franchise tag on Daniel Jones, but instead the transition tag. They ran a little bit of a risk of another team coming through and giving him an offer sheet that the Colts wouldn't or couldn't match. Well, in doing so, the musical chairs of this quarterback carousel played out, and there weren't that many teams that ultimately could do that. And so it became clear that the Colts and Daniel Jones, well, let's get a deal done. What was working in Daniel Jones' favor was because he was on the transition tag, that was $37+ million in cap. That's what he was taking up. In order to bring that number down and do more in free agency, the Indianapolis Colts would need to work out an extension for him. And so that's what they did. 2 years, $88 million. So you're averaging 44. However, I'm told with the contract details of this, Daniel Jones is set to make at least $50.5 million in 2026 alone. If he plays well, he recovers well from his Achilles injury and surgery, and I'm told that he is supposed to be ready to go by week 1. If and when that takes place, has a great year, the Indianapolis Colts will probably want to extend Daniel Jones before his 30th birthday, and then he could get his third big veteran contract before he even turns 30 years old. He may want to play it out and maybe take it to free agency later on. We'll get to all that later on. The fact is, Daniel Jones making more than $50 million in 2026 from the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts keep Alec Pierce at wide receiver. They also wanted to get Trey Hendrickson. We know which way that went today. So 2 out of 3 is what the Colts will have to do. But they have their quarterback now, at least of the now, in a little bit of the future in Daniel Jones.
Yeah, with a future that still feels a little bit murky given the fact that he's coming off of that Achilles injury. You mentioned it and laughed a little bit because it just does seem so crazy given this amount of money, given this type of injury that sometimes athletes really struggle to come back from and take time to really get back in the full swing of things. What's the risk here as we show these images of that torn Achilles?
Yeah, there's certainly risk, right? And we have seen quarterbacks who have torn their Achilles, who come back the next year, and they don't really look like themselves all that much, right? We saw it with Aaron Rodgers, of course, I think at least 10 years older than Daniel Jones. We saw it with Kirk Cousins, who struggled upon his return and then got better in year 2 post-Achilles. I don't know how Daniel Jones is going to look post-Achilles. I think we always say that this is sort of a 9-10 month injury. That means when you can get back out on the field, right? That's when you are cleared to play football. Does that mean that you were going to be your old self again? I don't know that we have enough evidence to say that that is what we should expect these days in today's NFL. But certainly the Colts feel good enough about Daniel Jones. They have Riley Leonard as his backup. Anthony Richardson, the former number 4 overall pick, he's going to be dealt for some day 3 pick at some point, probably before the draft. It's impossible to believe that he will be on this team come week 1. But the future of the now is Daniel Jones making more than $50 million this season.
A lot of money being handed out around the NFL, and that is a big-time business. Daniel Jones getting paid. JJ, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Of course, always staying tapped in with you as you look at the way that the season went for Daniel Jones. Started off great, and then even before the injury, he did start to tail off. The turnovers ticking up. 2 TDs going down, completion percentage also down, and 1-4 over those last 5 games. So Daniel Jones is there. We'll have more with our QB Ben DiNucci on the other side. Eyes right over to who? Trey Hendrickson, the top edge rusher, still out there for the signing on the free agency market. All signs certainly pointing to his time in Cincy being up. Just a matter of who will be the one to sign him as he comes off of an injury-riddled season. Our guy Pete Prisco's best available free agent list is looking a little bit like this right now. Trey Hendrickson 1, Kyler Murray 2, and then take your pick of who you like. You want Joey Bosa? You want a wide receiver in Romeo Doubs or Jawan Jennings? Take your pick. My pick is the good fellas who are sitting over to my left right now to help us continue this conversation, and that is same folks we had yesterday morning. Logan Ryan and Ben DiNucci tap back in with us on the Morning Buzz. Thank you, fellas. Always nice to have people in person with us here. Y'all saw all the moves that we went through yesterday. I want to know first, Logan, what are you looking towards today as we move forward in free agency some more?
I think it's got to start with Kyler Murray, fellas. Like, to me, he was the top quarterback available. He hasn't signed yet. He's going to probably pick his place because his salary is going to be paid essentially by the Cardinals. So he's going to cost any team $1 million. And I'm looking at him and the Minnesota Vikings. I think that's a team that makes a lot of sense. I've played against these guys. I've played against Kyler Murray. He is special. You might not like his personality. I think he needs a fresh start. All that stuff. I wasn't his teammate. I can't speak on that. But playing against the player, he has a unique skill set. He's extremely quick, extremely fast. He has a good arm. And I believe that with the right coach and the right system, Kyler Murray could be a Pro Bowl quarterback next year.
I'm looking at your side of the ball, Logan. I think some of these teams need some defense today. The Cowboys traded for Rashawn Gary yesterday. There's still some questions at DN. Trey Hendrickson, could he be there? The Broncos didn't really do anything. They brought back some of their own guys, but hadn't made a splash in free agencies. And people have been talking about, running back, Breece Hall, Tyler Algier. And then the Super Bowl champs, the Seahawks, they lost a bunch of guys, weren't able to get any of those guys back. Got Rashid Shaheed back last night, but what are they going to do today? So some question marks still, a lot of good players still available. So day 2 of free agency, we're off and running.
Ben, if we keep it to defense, then what about Joey Bosa? Because Trey Hendrickson obviously going to probably garner a lot more money than Bosa will. There's only a year in age difference between the two. You could get a piece that still might have some life left in him in Bosa. Do you like him at all in the defense conversation or not so much?
I do. I think there's going to be a couple teams that probably have their eyes on Joey Bosa and Trey Hendrickson. If that number drops a little bit, which if I'm these guys at this point in their career, I've never been there, so I don't know, but I would almost err on the side of taking a little bit less money, going playing for a contender and having a chance to kind of revamp your career, go have a chance to win, go have a chance to compete. So I'm sure there's some teams out there that are sitting on Joey Bosa and Trey Hendrickson saying, hey, if the number's right, if we don't get some of these guys who we think we have a chance at, let's roll the dice on one of these two guys.
Logan, where do you fall in that conversation of chasing the money versus chasing a chance to go win a ring when you are a free agent?
It depends on that time of your career. Joey Bosa's up there in years a little bit. You got to see how much time he has left. He's made a lot of money. Now's the time to get the ring if you haven't had one. I got to that point in my career. My last 2 teams were the Tampa Bay Bucks with Tom Brady and the San Francisco 49ers. I like Joey Bosa going to the San Francisco 49ers. Why not reunite with your brother? You know, 2 edges right there. The Bosa brothers can be your edge. I know he's been rumored and linked. They've talked about that for years. And they get Joey Bosa over to the Niners to play with Nick. And I think this is the time to do it. He tried it in Buffalo last year. But a guy like Joey Bosa, you don't need him to have 20 sacks for you. You need him to show up big in the playoffs. You need him to show up big in the Super Bowl. You need him to show up big in those big primetime games to close out and get that sack. You need closers. I like the Bosa brothers coming together in the 49ers.
Okay, that'll be something to monitor if that can tap in, and you've been kind of spot on with your predictions so far. So